In this video I'm going to review the Nikon D5000 DSLR camera, and I know immediately, especially some of you Brits are going to wonder why I've used the term Nikon when describing this camera. Well, it turns out that the majority of the people who watch my videos are from North America, so I thought I'd repay them by using their vernacular. I've got this camera out of my trunk of my car and I'm going to put it through its paces around Lincoln's West Common and show you what it can do. I've come to Lincoln's West Common in particular because Lincoln City Football Club are playing a soccer match this afternoon and the town centre is completely full, and the West Common gives me a nice open space, quiet open space that I can record this video in. The camera was released in 2009, so it's 13, almost 14 years old, this camera. So it's not new by any means, and it has just under 13 megapixels. Though for at the time, 13 megapixels was quite an impressive number. It has 4 frames a second, so it can shoot 4 frames a second, which is average for the sort of camera it is. But in truth, it's quite light. It's got a 1855 lens at the front, and that's quite light. It feels plasticky, but it's actually generally quite a light camera to use and hold. In fact, it's lighter. It feels lighter than my Olympus with the Pro lens on it. So yeah, it's definitely it definitely feels good in the hand. This nearly 14-year-old camera cost quite a few £100s when it was brand new, but today, 14 years later, you can pick up the body of this camera for about £100 on MPB. But you can get a body and a lens on eBay for potentially between £150 and £200. So it's not expensive for a second-hand camera, but equally it's not cheap for what it is. It is an upper entry-level camera. It was in its day, and it compares quite well with the Nikon D90, which is slightly better than this camera, and the Nikon D60, which is slightly less than this camera. So if you're looking to buy a used DSLR, then a Nikon, then you'd want to look at the D90, the D60, or even the D5000. They're all sort of at a similar price. What I think you could do if you want to buy a camera of this kind of quality, you could look around, because there's lots of other cameras about the same price bracket that may or may not suit your needs better. It does have an amazing tilt swivel screen which rotates in about 270 degrees, and I really like this because I quite often I shoot in portrait mode, so this for Instagram, so this is perfect for me. I love this sort of thing. I prefer this to the flip up screen. I like these flippy out tilt screen things. The camera shoots at 4 frames per second, which is average. I think it's okay for a camera of its age. It's got 11 focus points, which I think is quite good for a 14-year-old camera. However, it only has an ISO range between 200 and 3200, so compared to modern cameras, even cameras just 6-7 years old, 200 to 3200 is really low. It's really poor in my view. But because it's an APS-C, you might get away with the low ISO numbers. I'll take a few pictures around the West Common in Lincoln just to see how the camera performs. I'm going to put it on auto mode, which is not something I ever do normally, but I did take this camera out yesterday to give it a try. I messed up all the manual settings and none of my pictures came out well, so I'm not going to risk it this time. I'm going to stick it on auto and show you what the pictures are like. I am going to shoot in RAW, so that will provide me with an opportunity to edit the pictures before we go through them. But yeah, let's see how this camera performs, and I'll show you what the pictures look like at the end. First image I'm going to take is this picture of Ellis Mill in the background. I'm going to use this wooden structure as a foreground interest. I'm going to do a vertical shot to try to get both elements in the picture and hopefully use it for Instagram. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going auto just because I can't trust myself on manual. The truth is I don't really know the dials or where the buttons are on this camera, and it's so unfamiliar to me compared to my Olympus. My Olympus will have lots of buttons on the top, or dials, that I can sort of turn and move the various settings, but this you have to go into menus or double press buttons to get anything. So that's one of the sort of drawbacks of this camera. Well, for me personally, I don't know it very well. I don't know it as well as I do the Canon cameras I've reviewed. So first thing I can tell you is that, you know, it's a bit alien to me. I'm going to take this picture. It might come out really well on auto. Let's see how I do. That was interesting. On auto it put the flash up, so which is really odd. So I might actually try manual, because the thought of having flash on my camera with the bright sunshine in view is just a bit strange. So yeah, I'll keep trying, I'll keep persevering. I'm going to try and get a picture of this horse with the wonderful sort of orangey glow of sky in the background. I've decided to switch to manual, and I'll try and take a manual shot. I don't trust auto on this camera. Since the flash popped up, I really can't trust auto, so I'm going to give manual another go, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So I'm going to try and take a picture of this horse now. Just taking a shot of the cathedral with the moon above it, and I've had to go to manual focus because the 11 focus points wouldn't allow me to get focus anywhere, which is a bit of a shame. For my final image, I thought I'd come down to the Foss Navigation, which is a canal that was built by the Romans to link the River Witham with the River Trent in Nottinghamshire. And I'm going to try and get a reflection of one of these boats that are moored up on the side of the river. I'm back home now after being at the West Common, and I'm going to have a look at the images that I've taken on my computer. So let's jump into my computer now and have a look at these images. The first image is this one of Ellis Mill and this wooden structure in the foreground, and the composition is perfectly fine. It's not a bad image. The colours are really vibrant. There's nice orangey reds of these houses here, and the greens in the grass. It's fine. It's not a bad image. However, when you zoom in and have a look at this image a little bit more closely, you'll notice that it's out of focus, or it's got some sort of camera shake. So I imagine what's happened here, when the camera is set on auto, it put a much too slow shutter speed, too slow to hand hold, and because of that I've had a little bit of camera shake when I have taken this picture. And the truth is, it's probably a good idea that I switched to manual, because I wasn't happy with that at all. So yeah, as far as the image is concerned, it's fine. It's just the fact that I needed a tripod, or I needed a faster shutter speed. The picture of the horse, on the other hand, is so much better. I went for manual on this image, and this has come out quite well. I'm quite happy with this image. The sky colours are great, and the horse is spot on in the image. If you zoom into this one, you'll spot that it's not pin sharp, it's slightly out of focus, it's slightly soft. But for me, for Instagram, I'm happy with this picture. This would do perfectly nicely. Potentially I've got a little bit too much grass in the foreground, but that's fine, I don't mind at all. While I was at this horse, it came up really close to me, and I managed to get the shot of its head leading into the picture, and I quite like this image as well. So if I zoom into this to have a look at the quality, this is a bit sharper than the first horse image that I've taken, but it's still not pin sharp. So that's an interesting point, really, that it's not. The third picture I've taken was the one of the boat, so I took the picture of the boat, and the interesting thing here, I've given the image enough room at the bottom for this reflected tree and enough room at the top, so I've captured it all. And I've also given a bit of room for the boat to move into if it needs to move in. Once again, this image isn't as sharp as I'd liked it to be, but it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine for me. And the last image was this image of the moon over the cathedral, and I manually focused this, and it just shows you that my manual focusing isn't terribly good, and there's lots of grain in this image, but I'm quite happy with this image. I quite like the image, the moon at the top and the skyline, the cathedral at the bottom. I'm quite pleased. All in all, the colours on the images are fine. I'm really pleased with the way that the colours have come out. If you're looking for a cheap DSLR camera, then yeah, fine, go ahead and buy this. Although I would suggest that you perhaps looked around, see if you can find an alternative. As I've mentioned earlier in the video, the Nikon D90 and the D60 are equally good cameras around the same price bracket, but Canon also make nice cameras around that price bracket as well. So I would suggest have a look round yourself to see what you like. Thank you very much indeed for watching the video. I hope it's been informative, and I hope it's helped you make a decision on whether the Nikon D5000 is a camera for you. If you like this video, I'd be super pleased if you'd give the video a like, and if you really like the video, I'd be amazingly pleased if you would subscribe to the channel. That would be fantastic, and it's completely free. You just have to click the button. Once again, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheerio.